I'm laughing, big dog, because you're going to need this tier list. You about to spend a bunch of money this week. What's going on with ya, big dog? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. Today, big dog, there's a couple of things I want to talk to you about. It is huge. The first is that it's official, my friend. This Saturday, I will be doing a Master Duel tournament in support of the LGBTQ community. Rainbow Dragon Gang, get your blickies ready, my boy. Yeah. All of the proceeds for this Master Duel tournament will be going towards the Trevor Project, which is suicide prevention for the LGBTQ youth. But I got another announcement, which is also gonna make you even broker. For the celebration of Juneteenth and Daddy's Day, everything on TheCaliEffect.com is 25% off. Cop it now. That's right, big dog. So make sure you get your wallets ready, whether you're supporting the LGBTQ community or getting your merch that is 25% off, or maybe even both. You're probably gonna need this budget tier list a little bit afterward. Hey, big dog, I'm gonna make sure you get to your budget or a little bit beyond it. Come on, big dog, you know you gotta make your partner upset. They won't be happy with you in the long term. In this particular budget tier list, I got 5 different categories. Top budget is exactly what it sounds like. These are the best budget Yu-Gi-Oh decks in the game right now. The next budget are pretty good Yu-Gi-Oh budget decks, but they may be capped out maybe at a particular price or just not as strong as the top budget Yu-Gi-Oh decks. I like to consider them alternatives if you don't like the top budget. Takes a really good pilot is exactly what it sounds like. You gonna be cooking, but you gotta know how to cook. And I know y'all be burning cereal, so it's not for everybody. Experimental was a strategy that may lost a step and we're back to the drawing board, or maybe on the up and rising. It may have shown itself as a real potential to be a better budget deck. And lastly, my friend, oh no, what are you doing, baby? Also known as nowadays as a real challenge. It takes a special type of individual to pilot this deck to success, but if you do, you got it, my friend, you got it. But one thing you don't have is a brain, because you probably should have just picked another one of these decks. Okay, big dog, so the criteria for this budget tier list is still extremely simple. First, I want to know how powerful these decks are at about that $100 price range. Why? Because as cheap as we try to make Yu-Gi-Oh, $100 is probably the cheapest you can get for a deck to be decently competitive. Second, I want to know how these strategies will respond when you throw more money at them. My guy, if these decks aren't like strippers and I throw more money at them and they don't do more things, then they ain't it. The third thing I'm going to be considering is how powerful these decks are into the format, as well as if they actually did something over the course of the last 2 weekends during a regional or a national event. Those are actually really, really important. Right now, thanks to the German nationals and everything that happened over the course of the weekend, some cards that I genuinely think that you should be preparing your decks for is Eradicator Epidemic Virus, Erad for 6, Shit, Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion, and of course the ever so powerful Book of Moon. If your strategy can play around these particular cards or vibe with these cards, then that's a pretty big plus. Let's go ahead and start off this video with the strategies that I mentioned on Sunday's video. Go ahead and check out why I think that these are the top budget decks for a deeper analysis. But if we just had to give the top 5 right now, Dinos is one of the top budget Yu-Gi-Oh decks. It may not have the top competitive showings right now, but this deck does not care about Eradicator Epidemic Virus, has more ways to play around cards like Ghost Bell and Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, and cards like Infinite Impermanence, Effect Veiler, and Book of Moon do not matter with Miscellaneous Saris. Next is Fluundereeze. God, I hate this deck. You gotta give credit where credit is due. Harpy's Featherstorm is a real Yu-Gi-Oh card. Just watch out for Eradicator Epidemic Virus. It should really be no debate, but Sword Soul is one of the best budget decks in the entire game. The deck is incredibly cheap now thanks to Battles of Legends Monster Revenge, and is one of my favorite decks of all time, so it's always going to get points. Hey look, there's no bias here. Sword Soul's actually been topping over the course of the last 2 weeks too. It's been doing damage. Rika should come as no surprise as another one of those top budget Yu-Gi-Oh decks, extremely cheap and has a higher ceiling thanks to the new card Rose Shaman and the new set. I can't wait to see players cook up with some more combos. I mean, as long as you're not tributing my monsters, we good, Rika players. And the last deck in that top 5 list is going to be Gold Pride Punk. This deck is actually incredible and now cheap because of Battles of Legends Monstrous Revenge. Again, these are my top 5, and if you guys want more detailed information, go ahead and check out these videos. Let's see where I put these other Yu-Gi-Oh decks. Blackwing got a new monster in Sharnga of the Blackwing, which allows you to be able to destroy a card on your opponent's side of the field, but also is a level 2 tuner that can be special summoned. I would not underestimate this Blackwing deck. I think it's a next budget Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Holy, Blackwing's got support! It's go time! The thing that I really like about Blackwing is that Ash and Bell don't necessarily affect it. You're preventing one search and one summon, and Blackwings have a ton of ways to circumvent themselves around that, but also this deck can play Eradicator Epidemic Virus and tribute your Blackwing monsters to ruin your opponent's entire board. I did more research for the Code Talker strategy, and it actually does have something that's different from Math Mech and Marine Cess. Rocket Coder could potentially allow you to make cards like Borreload Savage Dragon while still sticking to the Code Talker theme. I think that this could be the separation that we've been looking for the Code Talker strategy to make it different from Math Mech and Marine Cess, but for right now, I would still have to say it's experimental. This deck actually has a ton of boom or bust potential, and if you guys actually pick this up, it's a really safe pick because the deck is extremely cheap and you can always just pivot to another cyber strategy if it doesn't work out. So while it's low on the tier list, it does have potential to be next budget with the ability, if you fail, to just switch to another deck. Now, I did completely forget about Crystal Beast getting Golden Rule inside of Battles of Legends. Allow me to address that right here. I think that Crystal Beast takes a really good pilot. Let's be real, big dogs. Unless you're Nesh, you are not winning with this deck. This deck still requires a big brain, and you still got to play Crystal Beast. I actually did watch Nesh's video on mixing the Conclave control with the full-powered Ultimate Crystal Beast deck, and I think that it's a really good video. Go ahead and check that out. I think that that's probably going to be the best way moving forward, and an avid Crystal Beast player could do some things with this deck with the new card Golden Rule. Dark World, my boys. There's actually been a change of fortune over the last couple of weeks. I've been seeing little to no Bestials, and I've been seeing not a lot of Joel and Lockbirds. This is sneaky decent right now. Look, on one hand, you're probably going to auto-lose to Eradicator Epidemic Virus, but on the other hand, you can play Eradicator Epidemic Virus. Come on, big boy. I don't think that Dark World will be a deck built for long-term play, but it would be a solid pickup at a very cheap deck that does have a low ceiling and a low money cap. I am so convinced that there's one or two things with Dinomorphia. Either A, I completely suck with this deck, or B, it's not as good as its toppings has allowed people to think. I do think that this is one of the better decks in the entire Yu-Gi-Oh game, considering all things like Ash, Bell, and Eradicator Epidemic Virus, as well as the top decks. And the reason being is because this deck can actually play through it all. Not only does it have Solemn Strike, its new Dinomorphia trap card allows you to be able to stop those monster effects, and it already played Trap Trick, so getting into Eradicator Epidemic Virus is a little easier. The problem would be getting Eradicated yourself. That might suck. Overall, I don't think that Dinomorphia has the potential to be a top budget deck right now, but I do like that it is an incredibly cheap deck, even though it does cap out. There's not a lot more that you can put into it to make it a better deck. Dogmatica, my boy. This deck, it's not bad. I actually heard that Dogmatica did top over the course of the last 2 weekends, which is pretty cool, but I would not bank that on being a consistent thing. It's a solid Yu-Gi-Oh deck, but when you're activating the effect of Albazoa to send Branded and Labyrinth players' decks to the graveyard, it's not a good thing. Fur Hire, holy, yo. If you did not like the bunny off of Zootopia, please exit stage left now. I'm not a furry or anything, but I think this deck is terrific. I'm trying to figure something out here. Fur Hire is actually in the next budget, in my opinion. I think that this deck is actually insane. One of the biggest hurdles that you're gonna have to accomplish though is getting the runic cards. That's gonna be really hard, but once this deck starts popping, it is incredibly hard to stop. It also has all of the utility to be able to break and make some of the best boards in hands for you. Being able to draw on your opponent's turn, giving you into those disruptive cards is amazing, and then forcing your opponent to use their most important cards on your runic fountain allows your Ferreira monsters to pop off. You just gotta watch out for Erad. I think Drytron does have everything that it takes to be successful in this format, but it's going to require a dedicated skill pilot to be able to play it. And by skilled, I mean a player that is smart enough to just summon Vanity's Ruler. Yep, that type of skill. To be real with you, I'm probably putting Drytron a little bit too low, but with no tops over the course of the last 2 weeks, you got to show me something. You got to wake up and do something. Eldritch, my boys, the ultimate floodgate deck. Real challenge. Coder mentioned that less skilled players may rely on floodgates to be able to beat better tiered players, and I think that that's a very interesting point, but the fact of the matter is that those floodgates can only get you so far. Overall, I think if your goal is growth with your particular deck and your ability, I would steer clear away from those mega floodgate dot decks unless they actually provide healthy points of interaction for you to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Evil Eye unfortunately has done absolutely nothing this format, and I don't think that that's going to change. It's mainly because kaiju monsters are really popular right now. Being able to tribute your unaffected, indestructible monster pretty much guarantees that your opponent wins the game. Personally, I genuinely want to bump this deck up to experimental, but the only person that will be experimenting is probably me. Exosister was already in an incredibly awkward spot. I don't think that it makes things better. Unfortunately, the dryer got taken back away from our Exo stepsisters. Stepsis, mom and dad are divorcing. Don't leave me. It seems like Sakatama and Aratama were not enough to keep Exosister into the competitive scene, though I do think that out of all of these decks right here, Exosister, it has decent chances in comparison. Fluffles actually did extremely well last weekend, and I'm not sure how to feel. One of the most busted things about Fluffles has always been Toy Vendor and Fluffle Wings. Those two cards are like ridiculous. My guy, Toy Vendor allows you to search, and it's not once per turn. Fluffle Wings sends the Toy Vendor to get you 2 more cards. The deck can OTK, it can fusion summon onto your opponent's turn for interruption. I think that this deck is experimental right now. It could be a lot better, but I think we need a little bit more time to figure it out. Herald of Orange Light is a great service to this deck. Heroes are 100% in the next budget. This is another deck that I think is really powerful, but doesn't necessarily get better when you put more money into the strategy. When you buy this deck, you pretty much get what you get. I mean, there are increments of change where the deck does get a little bit better, but it doesn't cap the floor of being a top competitive budget Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Overall, the new support for Elementary Heroes is really good, but I gotta say, the support for Black Wings just might be a little better. A lot of you guys were wondering where exactly could you get that list from for the Madolche player that topped? Well, they just so happen to be in my Discord. Just go ahead and add yourself to my Discord and bug the living daylights out of Mageline. I don't know, maybe it's Mageline. I give you guys full permission to harass Mageline within reason. Within reason. You can ask them for the deck profile, but you cannot ask them how luscious their hair is. It's pretty nice. Overall, though, I do think that Madolche is a pretty decent Yu-Gi-Oh deck. In my opinion, it's in the exact same spot as Fluffle. A player actually made a groundbreaking revelation with a deck that can incorporate Herald of Orange Light. Interesting. Both Marine Cess and Mathmech are pretty good Yu-Gi-Oh budget decks. I had them both in my honorable mentions. They're extremely cheap Yu-Gi-Oh decks, and I love that you can switch between one and another. The good thing for the Yu-Gi-Oh card game is both Mathmech and Marine Cess cards kind of dropping down in price due to the Forbidden List and other circumstances. I think that these are solid Yu-Gi-Oh decks that have their time in the format. They come and then they go, but they'll always pretty much be there. We saw a Mech Knight in round 8 of the German Nationals. It was pretty cool. The opponent was giving out Nightmare Corruptor Iblis, and they were doing things, and yeah, it's still a real challenge. Hey, really, all I gotta say, the person that was playing Mech Knight, they got that dog in them. But I don't think that Mech Knights will be able to do too well outside of memeable content right now. A cool thing that I want to mention is that if you guys are able to pick up the Runic engine, which I was wrong, it's pretty good right now, you can not only play Furhire, you can also play Naturia. The problem with Naturia is that last Forbidden List put Naturia Sacred Tree to 1, so you got it down bad. On the bright side, though, you get a Naturia Beast if you can summon Naturia Beast and a Naturia Barkion if you summon Naturia Barkion. This deck was actually really good against Labyrinth, which just might be the villain of this format, so there's the information. Also, the Naturia cards are ridiculously cheap. You can get everything for like $10 maybe, so it's not costing you anything. You just gotta figure out how this deck is gonna be played from here on out. Blunder Patrol, TJ's favorite Yu-Gi-Oh deck. I'm gonna put it in the next budget. This deck is pretty good, and with the adventure engine being cheap, also you potentially having access to the runic cards, there's another strategy that could be combined with both, as well as a kaiju engine to be able to make some really dangerous plays. Plus guys, if you don't like the furry ships, of course you like the other ships. I mean, we're all just looking for booty here. Let's just live our lives. Pirelli actually topped German Nationals, and I was quite surprised. This deck is still ridiculously expensive. Okay, let's be real. This deck's not terrible. It's not bad, but it is about $135 for 3 Pirelli, the memory card, Happy Memory, the other card, which is the continuous spell. Do you really want to spend that much? You got that cat in you. I think that's like, that might just be calling you a here. Hey, you might be something you can't get. A lot of players have been coming at me sideways for not including Scareclaw in our previous tier list. My honest thoughts on Scareclaw is that it does take a really good pilot. I don't think that Scareclaw are necessarily bad, but there are a bunch of bad Scareclaw monsters. Like seriously, if your name is not Scareclaw Reinhardt or Scareclaw Lightheart, the other Scareclaw monsters are, they mid. And that would be fine and dandy. There's a bunch of great archetypes with mid cards. We're gonna talk about one right after, but the problem with it is that Scareclaw seems to be a better deck as an engine for like Vanadium or Kashtira. Yep, I think I just hit the nail on the head there. The good thing about this is that investing in the Scareclaw is ridiculously cheap, and when you do have enough money, you can upgrade to maybe a Kashtira or Vanadium version, but until then, you're gonna be struggle bussing for a couple of wins in the takes a good pilot category, because Scareclaw it's a little underappreciated right now. Sky Striker gets 1 new card in the new Sky Striker Ace Azalea. I think that does make the deck a little bit better, but not enough to be able to crack the top budget Yu-Gi-Oh decks. Regardless, it is a solid Yu-Gi-Oh strategy that has brought all of the weebs out of the woodwork. That and Trap Tricks, it's been a growth in those type of Yu-Gi-Oh players, and you know who I'm talking about. One part of me wants to welcome them. The other part of me, I think Super Heavy Samurai is not a bad deck. It's in its experimental mode. I heard that a Super Heavy Samurai Orcus version actually topped. Hey, wait, so they're taking 2 bad machine decks and putting them together? Sheesh, couldn't be me. I wasn't on any Earth Machine Copium or anything at any point in time. Nope, not me, not at all. Super Heavy Samurai players, I understand your Copium, but have you tried playing Super Heavy Samurai Earth Machine? Think about it, they're all Earth machines. I do think that this deck has the potential to be a lot better in the future, but for right now, I would 100% say experimental. Tier Limit is actually doing tier limit things. It's topping. This deck requires a massive brain to be able to play, but if you look on the bright side, this deck is actually really cheap. That and Primitive Planet Perlino is still a god card. Like, have you guys read the card? The fact that Perlino is still at 3 and is an interaction with the opponent, as well as Tier Limit Rukalos being just a god Yu-Gi-Oh card is still crazy to me. This deck still has a lot of hope. I actually thought that Trap Tricks were a really good budget deck until counters start popping up out of nowhere. Because Labyrinth is back on the rise, they're playing Eradicated Epidemic Virus. Don't think that they're above calling traps. And also because Labyrinth is on the rise, players are going to start playing evenly matched more. This is, I'll put it in takes a really good pilot. Overall though, in the skill player's hand, once Trap Tricks does get rolling, none of those cards really even matter. A player could be able to play through those particular cards with ease and still be able to play Trap Tricks effectively at the highest events. The only Tri-Brigade deck I think we'll acknowledge right now is Tri-Brigade Sprite, and as you can see, Sprite isn't on here because Sprite's pretty expensive. I'm going to put it in experimental. Tri-Brigade itself isn't necessarily a terrible Yu-Gi-Oh deck, and a lot of the cards that I mentioned in this video, Tri-Brigades pretty much play around them. The only problem with this deck is that it is severely power crap. And lastly, Yumi. Hey, yo, isn't this a Floodgate deck? I think it fits nichely like right here. Right now in Yu-Gi-Oh, I don't think it's the time for Floodgate Glue-Eating Helmet Yu-Gi-Oh players. It's actually diverse, and on top of that, Yu-Gi-Oh requires a ton of skill to be able to play. But when the format gets as toxic as your ex in your last relationship, I'll let you know and you can start playing these decks. And that's all that I have for the updated budget tier list. I really hope you enjoyed this particular tier list. If you did, go ahead and let me know down below in the comment section what other tier list you'd like to see. But of course, also let me know if there's a strategy that I miss. I constantly look at those so I can try to improve on the next one. Of course, if you want to see more amazing videos, you already know what to do. Go ahead and check out these, as I'll catch you on the next one.